Please, subscribe our channel for more horror and psychological stories. The car somehow lost control and collided with a big tree at such a fast speed that the sound of the accident was so loud that it could rupture eardrums. Michael had become unconscious due to the impact of the crash. When William called out to Michael and he opened his eyes, almost 2 hours had passed since the accident had occurred. The accident had taken place just a short distance away from the road, and the condition of both, the car and Michael, was bad. William had suffered minor injuries. But Lucas, who had come along, was still unconscious, and there was no mobile network working there, and they couldn't see any way to get out of there. Michael managed to get up, but he was still feeling dizzy and had so much pain throughout his body that he couldn't stand up. He left William with Lucas and, limping, went to the road and saw that no car was coming from any direction, as far as he could see. When Michael turned back, he saw a house in the farmland. He picked up Lucas on his shoulder and started walking towards the house with William. The sound of their footsteps was painful and they were injured, but their friend's life was in danger. Walking through the tall sugarcane crops, Michael carried Lucas on his shoulders and finally reached the house. He saw a light in the upper room of the house. Michael signaled William to stay there and went forward to knock on the door, calling out, "Is anyone there? Is anyone there?" There was no response. So Michael hit the door with his hand again to knock, and the door opened slightly. He entered and shouted, "Is anyone there? My friend had an accident. Can anyone help? Hey, is anyone there, bro?" Standing outside, William helped Lucas sit on the railing of the stairs and began wiping his sweat while looking at his small scratches. After about 10 minutes, he remembered that Michael had been inside for a long time. But he did not come out and no sound could be heard from him. William turned around to look at Lucas. He was breathing but his condition was deteriorating with the passing time. This time William shouted for Michael in the dirty house, which seemed empty for weeks. Spider webs and dust were everywhere, and an eerie silence filled the entire house. He checked each room one by one, all of which were filled with dust and dirt. The wooden stairs creaked as he climbed them one by one, trying to keep its voice low. But the sound echoed louder on each step. Finally, reaching the top of the stairs, William turned around and opened the door to a room while calling out Michael's name once again. So the door to the adjacent room was also equally open. William turned and as soon as he looked towards that door, a face peeked in from the inside and immediately retreated back into the room.
"Michael! Michael!"
Shouting Michael's name, William entered the room and saw that it was pitch dark inside, nothing was visible. He lit the flashlight on his phone from his pocket to see, but as soon as he took out his mobile, the door behind him closed and a voice echoed in his ears.
No, we prefer the darkness."
William screamed.
"Who's there? Michael, it's you! Stop joking around! If we don't reach the hospital on time, Lucas will die!"
While William tried to look around in the darkness, he couldn't see anything clearly. Taking a few steps forward to find a switch on the wall, he accidentally bumped into a small stool and heard something heavy falling. Without caring about anything, William lit the torch on his phone, but as soon as the torch was lit, it flickered and went out. Now there was only the light from the mobile screen, and when he looked at it, he saw a stool in front of him which had the record player placed on it, but it had fallen. He carefully lifted the stool and then placed the record player on it. After that, when he looked around the room with the light from the mobile, he could only see shadows, but in this silence, he could feel blood running through his body due to fear. William slowly turned around and saw clearly in the light from his phone that there was no record playing, but the gramophone placed on the stool was playing by itself. In a single moment, he was covered in sweat and he leaned forward between the drops of sweat dripping from his forehead and removed the needle from the record player, and the playing sound stopped on its own. Standing there for a while, He kept looking at the record player and the needle he had removed. When nothing happened, his blood started to race again. He turned back and tried to look around the room in the light from his mobile, but the room was quite big and the light was very dim. He moved forward and started looking around on the walls to see if there was a door somewhere, but on the wall, he saw many names written from top to bottom in different places. While reading the names on the walls, with a slightly open mouth, William was looking a bit scared, a bit anxious, and very nervous. As he looked from one wall to another, he saw that there were many names written on them, just like a child's handwriting. In the end, his eyes fell on his mobile phone, and he saw that there was a full signal. He immediately called Michael. William might have never experienced such a big shock in his life. Even in that room, Michael's phone was ringing. He didn't know what to do. The phone kept ringing, and he didn't even cut it off. The sound of the phone's vibration could be heard in the wardrobe that was kept in the room. As soon as he opened the wardrobe, someone pushed him and ran away, causing him to collide with the stool and fall down. William screamed and got up, shouting, "Who is it?" and looked towards the direction of the mobile's light. A child was lying on the ground at that spot. Suddenly, fear and anxiety showed on his face. He immediately tried to wake the child up, but the child didn't even budge. William was so focused on waking up the child that he didn't notice someone throwing steps and standing behind him. And said,
"Uncle, let me stay. I won't get up. I'm dead."
William turned around, feeling scared and panicked, and before he could feel anything. William was so scared in that one moment that he immediately fainted. But one thing was on his mind, that whatever he was asked for, he would give it. In his unconsciousness, William was slowly hearing his name. Someone was calling his name very close to his ears. As the voice calling out his name slowly became clearer and clearer, and finally, William woke up from his sleep. He had fallen asleep on the back seat of the car. But when he opened his eyes, he looked around. The same sugarcane field was there, spread far and wide. The same crows were there, which he had just seen in his dream. William started speaking to Michael from behind the wheel.
Let's take a turn. I just had a really bad dream about this place. Let's take a different route. Listen to me, this road is very dangerous.
Michael laughed out loud. "You are a very superstitious person. You believe in signs and symbols," said Michael. As Michael spoke, William, Michael, and Lucas saw the same scene before their eyes, the very same one that had started William's dream. Michael was able to finish his sentence before the car accident happened. When he opened his eyes a little later, he found himself on the road and no car was in sight to help him. Lucas had suffered severe injuries and needed immediate help. Michael looked around in the fields and saw a house in the distance. Despite William's insistence, Michael took both of them to the house and, seeing the light on in an upstairs room, began shouting at the door, "Is anyone there? Is anyone there? Our friend has had an accident, can we get some help?" William's eyes widened as he saw everything, because it was exactly like he had seen in his dream. He asked,
This house, this place, when I first saw them, how did they appear in my dreams? Listen to me, our lives are in danger.
Michael shouted loudly and said,
You've only suffered minor injuries. Look at Lucas. If we don't get help right away, he will die. If you're so scared of your scary dreams, then leave this place immediately.
Michael gestured to William to stay with Lucas, and William gently laid unconscious Lucas on the stairs. Then, in that entire atmosphere, only Michael's scream could be heard. Upon hearing the screams, Lucas regained consciousness and began to shout, calling out to Michael and William. When the door of that house opened and William came out laughing and smiling from inside. His face was covered in blood, his hands stained with it, and he was laughing like a madman as he came out the house. Lucas was sitting nearby, and William sat down beside him and said,
I told Michael to turn the car around. I said, let's get out of here. I dreamed of what would happen, but he didn't. He thought he was such a big leader. Look what good it did him to be a leader.
Lucas perhaps understood what was about to happen, and stuttered.
What are you saying? Where is Michael?
William leaned in close to Lucas and whispered softly in his ear.
I told you not to come here, but now you'll have to pay for it.
After saying this, William grabbed Lucas's leg and began dragging him into the house. Lucas's bones were already broken, and blood was flowing out. He was barely able to move. As William dragged him like an animal, Lucas let out terrifying screams. The screams grew louder and more intense. Finally, William picked Lucas up and threw him into the same room where he had passed out in his dream. William said.
When I was unconscious in that room, I had only one thing in my heart, that no matter what happens, I should survive, even if Michael and Lucas don't. It's said that the fear of death shows a person's reality. It's very difficult to go to new places every day. I've changed 4 jobs in 3 months, and I keep changing my home too. Initially, it was a bit difficult, but not anymore. Now I've learned everything. Now, as soon as I meet new friends, I bring them here. For granting my life, I've made a deal. As long as I keep bringing new people here, nothing will happen to me or anyone around me. But the day this stops, everything will end. I have to bring 4 people here every month, no matter what. My name is William. I want to be friends with you.